Okay, Derbyites, welcome to the 14th annual Gold Derby Film Awards. These are the awards nominated by you. You choose the winners, and we're going to announce them right now. I'm Marcus Dixon. I'm here with Chris Beachum and Daniel Montgomery. These are the best of 2015, January to December. That was the eligibility period. So let's just get started here. The first one is Best Foreign Language Film. The nominees were The Assassin from Taiwan, Goodnight Mommy from Austria, Mustang from France, Son of Saul from Hungary, and Wild Tales from Argentina. And the Gold Derby Film Award goes to Son of Saul from Hungary. Woo! Laszlo Nemes.
Yeah, this was a complete blowout. Son of Saul had more votes than the rest of the nominees combined. And distant second place was Wild Tales. Third place, The Assassin.
It's going to win the Oscar too, don't you think?
Pretty easily. I can't imagine it losing.
All right, so I'm just going to move on to Best Documentary. We have Amy, Cartel Land, Going Clear, Scientology and the Prison of Belief, He Named Me Malala, and The Look of Silence. And the Gold Derby Film Award goes to Amy. Woo! The director is Asif Kapadia. I hope I pronounced that right.
Yeah, this was another blowout. I don't know. I can't do the math that quickly in my head. I think it had more than its fellow nominees combined. I wish it had been a little closer. The Look of Silence came in a distant second, and I really, really loved The Look of Silence. So I wish it had been a little bit closer, but I loved Amy too, so no complaints from me.
Well, I've got Best Animated Feature, and the nominees here are Anomalisa, The Good Dinosaur, Inside Out, the Peanuts movie, and Shaun the Sheep movie, very similar to the Oscar nominees in some respects. And just like it's won every award this whole season, Inside Out is our winner for Best Animated Feature.
Yeah, that's not really a surprise. It was nominated for Best Picture. We have it up for Screenplay and a few other awards, and yeah, the voting in this category was, this wasn't even close. It has more than twice as many votes as its other nominees combined. Possibly more than 3 times as many votes as its other nominees combined.
Going forward,
go ahead.
Going forward at the Oscars, I think these three are the front runners there. Inside Out for animated, Amy for documentary, Son of Saul for foreign. If you're making your Oscar predictions at home or for work, I would definitely pick those three. There's some experts going off on their own, and they're going to look really, really smart if they're right. But I think these are the safe choices.
The other one I have next is Best Visual Effects. Just a stellar category this year with all of the Best Picture nominees and so forth. Ex Machina is one of our nominees. Mad Max Fury Road, The Martian, The Revenant, and Star Wars The Force Awakens. And our winner for Best Visual Effects is Mad Max Fury Road.
That was a big win for Mad Max. Although this wasn't a blowout, it was this one and Star Wars: The Force Awakens both had a lot of votes, and then there was a huge drop off. Not a lot of support past that.
And this says Marcus on the next one, but it should be Daniel, and then Marcus takes over the next 2 after that. So Daniel, you got the next one.
Okay, so that would be Best Sound. The nominees for Best Sound are Mad Max Fury Road, The Martian, The Revenant, Sicario, and Star Wars: The Force Awakens. And just to note that, like the BAFTA Awards, we combine sound for sound mixing and sound editing, so this is the only category for sound. And that award goes to Mad Max Fury Road. By another mile, the voting in this category.
I'm glad we combined these, though. That was a decision made way back at the beginning, 14 years ago, and I don't think most Oscar voters could even really tell you the difference between sound editing and sound mixing, and that's evident every year by the fact that it's almost the exact same nominees.
Almost always won by the same films, unless there's like a musical, then that wins mixing. I mean, even if you could broadly judge sound, which I think people can say, oh, I really liked how they used sound in that film, the technical difference between editing and mixing and where they come into play and how to figure them out. I really just feel for the number of voters who understand it, they really should just combine them.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's do Best Song. The nominees are Love Me Like You Do, 50 Shades of Grey, One Kind of Love from Love and Mercy, See You Again from Furious 7, Till It Happens to You from The Hunting Ground, Writings on the Wall from Spectre. And the Gold Derby Film Award is something that was snubbed at the Oscars. It's See You Again from Furious 7. Wiz Khalifa, Charlie Puth, Justin Franks, and Andrew Cedar.
And this was a pretty close category. There were only 28 votes between first and second place. Second place was Till It Happens to You, which is the Oscar frontrunner. And every single nominee in this category had significant support, so it was spread out pretty widely, the support here.
I was really surprised it wasn't nominated at the Oscars.
Yeah, me too. And then I'll just go to the next one, the Best Score. And the nominees are Carol, that's Carter Burwell, The Hateful Eight, which is Ennio Morricone, Inside Out, which is Michael Giacchino, Mad Max Fury Road for Tom Holkenborg, and Star Wars The Force Awakens for Mr. John Williams. And the Gold Derby Film Award is The Hateful Eight for Morricone.
Mm-hmm. This was a pretty solid, definitive win for The Hateful Eight. Carol was in second place. I'm kind of surprised that Star Wars The Force Awakens didn't have more support. It finished third. But this is another category like Best Song. Every nominee in this category had a lot of support. I think I personally voted for Inside Out.
Yeah, I did too.
I did 3.
It didn't matter, did it?
Yeah.
So we
All
were
right.
117.
Well, Best Production Design is next. Our nominees are Bridge of Spies, Carol, Crimson Peak, Mad Max Fury Road, and Star Wars The Force Awakens. And our Gold Derby Film Award goes to Colin Gibson for Mad Max Fury Road.
And to sound like a broken record, this was a runaway, a lock, just far out front from everything else. Star Wars Force Awakens was a distant second. Carol was third. I'm surprised Crimson Peak didn't get more love, but I guess it was not very widely seen.
So this is 3 for Mad Max, is that right? Let me look. 1 Best Sound.
Counting.
Visual effects, wow.
Yeah, it's doing well. Well, the other one I have at the moment is Best Makeup and Hairstyling. Nominees there are, and we do 5 here, unlike the Oscars. They should move to 5. It's the only category. Even the shorts have 5. I don't know why the Makeup and Hairstyling board or voters, members of that branch, don't just demand that they move to 5. It's not like it costs extra money. Black Mass, Carol, Mad Max Fury Road, The Revenant, and Star Wars The Force Awakens. And our Best Makeup and Hairstyling team with the Gold Derby Film Awards is Mad Max Fury Road, Leslie Vanderwalt, Elka Wardega, and Damian Martin.
Another huge blowout. Distant second place was The Revenant, and nothing else had even 100 votes past that.
I noticed we snubbed the 100-year-old man. I guess no love for old men this year.
Find me 100 people that saw that.
Which is one of the great things about the Oscar nomination. Like when you get that bake-off that you have at the Oscars, you get those films that the branch, really is, may know about that the rest of us aren't familiar with. That maybe really did have great makeup, and so I'm really happy it's nominated, even though, admittedly, even I haven't seen it. So
I've seen almost everything.
yeah, I try to anyway. Next up, we've got the award for Best Film Editing. The nominees are The Big Short, which I voted for, Mad Max Fury Road, The Revenant, Spotlight, and Star Wars The Force Awakens. And the Gold Derby Film Award goes to Mad Max Fury Road, Margaret Sixel.
Wow. It sounds like a sweep is happening.
Yeah,
One,
that wasn't
two,
even
three.
close to. The Big Short was second place, so I gave it a little bit of help, but not nearly enough. I needed to be about 400 more people.
And that's Margaret is George Miller's wife, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
So she and he could win with us. They could both win at the Oscars.
Yeah. It'll be interesting at the Oscars. It'll be sort of like Baz Luhrmann and Catherine Martin. Catherine Martin has 4 Oscars for his film. He's never won yet. And we could see the same thing happen with these two, where she wins for editing and he doesn't win for, directing at the Oscars.
At least he already has one.
That's true. That's true. Moving on to Best Costume Design. The nominees are Brooklyn, Carol, Cinderella, Crimson Peak, and Mad Max Fury Road. And we could just play this part on a loop. The Gold Derby Film Award goes to Mad Max Fury Road.
Wow.
That's one throughout the season I have never quite understood. Mad Max is a stunning technical achievement, but I wouldn't hold it up necessarily to the costumes in Cinderella or Carol. It just seems like an odd place for it to have, and it's been dominating everywhere for costumes at BAFTA, at the Guild, at the Critics' Choice Awards.
You know what? The costumes are really original. I mean, we've seen those Cinderella dresses before. We've seen the Carol dresses before. They pulled them out of the Mad Men closets, pretty much. But these Mad Max costumes, she really created these out of nothing, just her imagination, or George's imagination.
Well, it was pretty close, though. I mean, there were exactly 60 votes between first place and third place, which in terms of the categories we've had this year, that's close compared to everything else. Carol was in second place, Cinderella was in third, and they were reasonably close second and third. So very, very honorable mentions there.
All right, so let's do Best Cinematography now. Our 5 nominees are Carol, The Hateful Eight, Mad Max Fury Road, The Revenant, and Sicario. And the Gold Derby Award does not go to Mad Max Fury Road. It goes to The Revenant, Emmanuel Lubezki.
And the irony is that this is like the one category I did vote for Mad Max Fury Road. But yeah, The Revenant, it wasn't even close. It had more than twice as many votes as Mad Max, which was in second place, and then Carol was in third.
All right, so this is one that we do that the Oscars don't do. It's Best Breakthrough Performer. And what's the rule, Chris? If you've been nominated here before, you can't be nominated again. That's why
Right. That's why Brie Larson couldn't even be eligible. Also, somebody like Amy Schumer's in this group. Even though she's well known, it was really her breakthrough film year. So, we didn't automatically just nominate her, but she was in the pool to be nominated. And we don't attach a particular movie. It's for these performers' entire body of work during the year.
All right, and so the nominees for Breakthrough Performer are Abraham Attah, Daisy Ridley, Amy Schumer, Jacob Tremblay, and Alicia Vikander. And the Gold Derby Film Award goes to Alicia Vikander.
Yeah, that wasn't really she didn't win by as large a margin as she won in the nominations phase. There was a lot of support for Jacob Tremblay in second place, and even Daisy Ridley had some solid support. It wasn't really that close, but there was some support spread around there.
She had a boatload of movies this past year, and several of them were like awards contenders. So
Right.
that was, I think, well deserved there. Well, I've got Best Ensemble, another one that the Oscars don't do, but of course SAG does, and we like to do. And the nominees for Best Film Ensemble are The Big Short, The Hateful Eight, Mad Max Fury Road, Spotlight, and Steve Jobs. So not even very similar to the SAG nominees this year. The winner for Best Film Ensemble, not Mad Max, although it's been dominating, it is the same as SAG, which is Spotlight.
Spotlight beats The Big Short. Wow.
by a huge margin. It wasn't even close, which kind of surprises me on one hand, but not on another, because if you compare to the Oscars, they may be kind of close, but Gold Derby did not like The Big Short. It's not even nominated for Best Picture, and we have 10 nominees.
Hmm.
And just as a reminder, anybody watching this video, we say this way back at the nominations, and I think Marcus might have said something at the very beginning here, but we don't, the three of us or anybody on our staff do not determine these nominees. These were voted on throughout January by anybody that wanted to come in and vote, over 1,000 people. So these nominees and then now the winners were determined by our users as well as other people that wanted to come in and vote.
Yeah, we had about 1,000 users voting for the winners also. So we all, the three of us voted, but we are only 3 votes in the large sea of voters.
And largely, none of my, maybe like 3 of my choices actually won.
We're going on to announce the writing categories now. Start with Best Adapted Screenplay, where the nominees are The Big Short, Brooklyn, Carol, Room, and Steve Jobs. So it's very similar to the Oscar lineup, except we've got Steve Jobs in there. The Oscars did not. But our award goes to the Oscar frontrunner, The Big Short, which is ironic because our users did not like it very much overall. But I guess all of its support did consolidate here since it wasn't up for that many awards.
I think the screenplay is their strongest thing. I mean, I'm not the biggest Big Short fan, but even I can appreciate the things they did to make this material interesting and exciting. It was really, really well done job for Charles Randolph and Adam McKay.
Yeah. And it wasn't a blowout. It was a pretty close race. It was about 40 votes decided that category. Room finished a close second, and then Steve Jobs was not far behind in third.
I'm telling you, folks, look out for Room maybe on Sunday. I think it's tighter race in this category than people think.
I think it's possible, but I feel like if Gold Derby, which our users didn't really like The Big Short overall, if it could even squeak it out here, I think it might be having slightly easier time even at the Oscars. But yeah, Room definitely. I mean, it got that directing nomination, so they love it more than we even thought they would. So I wouldn't rule it out completely there.
And screenplay wins often do line up with an acting win, and we know we feel pretty confident that Bree's going to win Best Actress. So it reminds me so much of the year when Monique was going to win for Precious, and then that screenplay surprised.
It's also interesting that with all the Mad Max love going on, Mad Max was snubbed for screenplay.
Yeah, it was never even really in the discussion. It's one of those.
And The Revenant.
Yeah, The Revenant. They were never even really close to nominations for. I think it finished in the top 10. Mad Max for best screenplay in the nominations voting. But yeah, it wasn't really even that close a race. I mean, something like The Big Short. Like I said, Gold Derby didn't really like it that much overall, but we like the screenplay better than we like the Mad Max screenplay. Okay, moving on to Best Original Screenplay. The nominees are Bridge of Spies, Ex Machina, The Hateful Eight, Inside Out, and Spotlight. And the award goes to, actually, Inside Out, not Spotlight, but just Oscar runner. Inside Out writers, Pete Docter, Meg LaFauve, Josh Cooley, and Ronnie Del Carmen. I actually interviewed Meg LaFauve a few days ago, about a week ago actually, so go search for that. It's somewhere. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's in our channel, so find it.
Was that how she won? Because everyone saw you and went and voted?
It's the Montgomery bump. I've been telling you people for years.
Well, I've interviewed Pete Docter a few times too, so you can do those searches. They were not long ones; they were red carpet interviews. But he seems to love Gold Derby, so I think I don't know what I voted for here. Inside Out and Spotlight were really tight choices for me here, and I don't remember which one I chose.
Yeah, it was tight choices for Gold Derby too. It was about this was the 26 vote margin that Inside Out and Spotlight.
The Oscar frontrunner is Spotlight. But I would really, I'm praying that Inside Out pulls off an upset on Sunday.
As much as I love, and I've had that ranked #1 for my best film of the year, Pete's going to get his Oscar earlier in the evening, I would just as soon Tom McCarthy get one, especially, and
Yeah,
Josh Singer too. But I really want Spotlight to get that award.
that's fair. Okay, so now we are entering the acting categories. We're going to start with Best Supporting Actress, and the nominees are Jennifer Jason Leigh for The Hateful Eight, Rooney Mara for Carol, Alicia Vikander for The Danish Girl, Alicia Vikander for Ex Machina, and Kate Winslet for Steve Jobs. And the winner, as I'm looking, I'm a little surprised, but I guess it's expected. The winner is Alicia Vikander for Ex Machina. And this performance is snubbed at the Oscars, of course.
Yep, our users liked Ex Machina a lot more than the Oscars did. We nominated it for visual effects, which it's up for at the Oscars, but we also gave it Best Picture and Best Supporting Actor. Oscar Isaac is in the next category. So yeah, it wasn't that big a blowout though. I mean, this is a pretty divided category. Gold Derbies users and a lot of our forum posters will not be happy to know that Rooney Mara was a very close second for Carol, which I agree with many of them. That's not a supporting performance. But Alicia Vikander's Danish Girl performance actually finished down in 4th place,
Wow.
and Jennifer Jason Leigh in 3rd, which put poor Kate Winslet in 5th. But again, a lot of support spread around in this category, so nobody was completely left out in the cold.
I was wondering for a while there if the two Alicias, if they would cancel each other out and maybe someone else would come up, but I guess that didn't happen. Okay, so now we have Best Supporting Actor, and there was a tie in the nominations phase, so we have 6 nominees, and we could have probably had 10. This category is just insane this year across the board. And the nominees for Best Supporting Actor are Benicio del Toro for Sicario, Idris Elba for Beasts of No Nation, Tom Hardy for The Revenant, Oscar Isaac for Ex Machina, Mark Rylance for Bridge of Spies, and Sylvester Stallone for Creed. The Gold Derby Film Award goes to Sylvester Stallone for Creed. Look at that.
That surprised me a little. Not necessarily that he won, but it wasn't really that close a race. He had 60 votes on Tom Hardy, who was in 2nd place, and Idris Elba, who was 2 points behind Tom Hardy in 3rd place. So it was pretty close from 2nd to 5th. But Sylvester Stallone, for a film that has no other nominations at these awards, he won pretty handily.
And our voters generally, I mean, we don't have the sentimental needs that, say an Oscar voter might have or whatever, because one, we haven't been around nearly as long, 14 years compared to 88, but people don't even necessarily remember, this person's already won with us, we don't have the need here, or they haven't, or things like that. So even if some sentimentality may be creeping into Oscar voters' minds, it generally doesn't happen on our end. So I was a little surprised too.
Okay, next up is Best Actress, and I've got that one. The nominees for Best Actress are Cate Blanchett, Carol, Brie Larson in Room, Charlotte Rampling in 45 Years, Saoirse Ronan in Brooklyn, and Charlize Theron in Mad Max Fury Road. And the Gold Derby Film Award goes to, not a big surprise here, Brie Larson for Room. She had miles and miles and miles between her and 2nd place.
Mm.
Has she lost anything this awards season? I think she's won pretty much every time.
I think she lost the Gotham Award last November or December. I think actually that went to Belle Powley or something like that. But that's like a small jury of voters that's not really representative of any kind of awards body. That's just what that particular small panel happened to think.
And she hasn't been able to campaign like some of the other people have, because she's been shooting in Australia and Vietnam and all over the world. So she's made about, I guess she was at Globes and SAG. She missed Critics' Choice and BAFTA, so she hasn't even been able to go to all the award shows.
And 2nd place in that category was Saoirse Ronan, distant second. not far behind in third place, Charlotte Rampling in 45 Years.
Mm.
Interesting. Chris, do you want to do this one? I kind of skipped the line there earlier. I didn't.
No. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Best Actor. The nominees are Matt Damon for The Martian, Leonardo DiCaprio for The Revenant, Michael Fassbender for Steve Jobs, Eddie Redmayne for The Danish Girl, and Jacob Tremblay for Room. First of all, I love that Jacob was nominated, but he didn't win. The winner, of course, Leonardo DiCaprio for The Revenant.
It's weird. Yeah, that doesn't seem like it should have been a foregone conclusion because the Oscars owe him. We don't. This is his 4th Gold Derby Award and his 3rd for Best Actor. He won for The Departed, and he won for The Wolf of Wall Street, and he won in the supporting race for Django Unchained. So, yeah, it's a little surprising that he won this decisively. He had about twice as many votes as Jacob Tremblay in 2nd place.
Oh, Jacob was in 2nd. Okay. Well, I know I said it that day we announced nominations, but I'm still shocked, as much as our users love Bryan Cranston all these years, that he wasn't even nominated.
Yeah.
It seems like they're what's so lucky for Leonardo DiCaprio in this particular Oscar race is that there's just no other Best Actor contender who there has really been any enthusiasm about after, once the award season in November, December, January really kicked in. There's just anyone else really cared about.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, though, in about 6 or 7 months, we'll do the Gold Derby TV Awards. I bet Brian will win for the HBO movie. What's it called? All the Way?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. It's going to be tough to beat at the Emmys, too.
Watch out for another Brian Emmy speech. Those are always great, though.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Well, Best Director, we have Todd Haynes for Carol, Alejandro G. Iñárritu for The Revenant, Tom McCarthy for Spotlight, George Miller for Mad Max Fury Road, and Ridley Scott for The Martian. So our lineup isn't quite the same as the Oscars. We're 3 for 5. But one of those 3 that is our actual winner is George Miller for Mad Max Fury Road.
And this was a pretty decisive victory. He had about twice as many votes as 2nd place Alejandro Iñárritu, and then a big drop off to 3rd place, which was Todd Haynes.
Mm.
It's very interesting because most of the Gold Derby votes for the DGA were going to George Miller, and now I think we know why. It's because Mad Max had such a fan base in our Gold Derby forums and our users that maybe that was influencing their predictions.
It's definitely an online fan kind of movie. It's one that had the critics' support behind it, so it won a lot of those early critics awards. And it's the kind of, and I say this as a proud geek, it's the kind of internet geeky film that would build up a lot of passionate support online too. But then when the industry awards started announcing their winners, and it's just been left out of the cold, at least in the top categories. It has done well at the guilds. But yeah, so.
But in our defense, as a whole group of voters, thousands of voters voting for some of these guilds and Oscars and so forth, until we saw DGA, the theory was it wasn't necessarily the fanboyness of Mad Max. It was, will Revenant and Iñárritu be able to, go back to back? I mean, it's just unheard of. So, and when you had a viable alternative in a George Miller with a very visual movie, it just seemed like they may go that route.
Okay.
But once they didn't, we all jumped on the Revenant for picture and director at the Oscars.
At least George Miller won the Critics' Choice Award for Best Director. He won something. And
the Gold Derby Film Award is better than a Critics' Choice Award.
Yes, you're right.
We're better than an Oscar, to be fair.
I wouldn't go that far, but the other thing you said might be true. Although we still want to get tickets and go to the show, so let's not say that. Let's cut that down.
Okay, we're a close second to the Oscars. Forever may they reign. Okay, and we're up to the last award of the night, Best Picture. We have 10 nominees in this category. We don't have that sliding scale that the Oscars do. We expanded this category to 10 last year, and we've kept it at 10. Those 10 nominees are Brooklyn, Carol, Ex Machina, Inside Out, Mad Max Fury Road, The Martian, The Revenant, Room, Spotlight, and Star Wars The Force Awakens. And what I like about this category in general is that we have 5 sci-fi fantasy movies in this category, count Inside Out. So it's a really, really interesting and eclectic blend. And the winner is one of those sci-fi fantasy films, Mad Max Fury Road.
Wow.
So that's the second one for George Miller, and Doug Mitchell's the other producer on that.
Yeah, and that's 8 total wins for Mad Max Fury Road, picture, director, and 6 below the line. And this wasn't a huge blowout. I mean, I think because there are 10 nominees in this category, there was a lot of place for support to go. But it did have about 60 to 70 votes on second place Spotlight, and third place The Revenant, and then Carol was in fourth place. Carol, unfortunately, 10 nominations, 0 wins. Inside Out.
That's been happening everywhere. Carol's been nominated, Golden Globes, BAFTAs, Critics' Choice. It can't win anything, literally anything. What is going on with this movie?
It's one of those sad circumstances, I think, where, I mean, it's an honor to be nominated. It truly is. It's better to have 10 nominations and lose them all than not be nominated at all. But I guess it's that sort of weird situation where it's one of the top 5 best achievements in every conceivable field. It's just not the best in any single one of them. So,
anything else, Daniel, in terms of numbers or interesting facts?
Well, I just want to give the totals for the winners. Mad Max, as I said, has 8 wins. It sort of ran the table, so there wasn't much left for everybody else. The next most awarded films were The Revenant and Inside Out with 2 apiece. Then you had a handful or so with 1 apiece, like Spotlight, The Big Short, The Hateful Eight, Furious 7, Room, of course, Creed, Ex Machina. Actually, 3 of the acting winners were the only wins for their movie. And Leonardo DiCaprio was one of only 2 victories for The Revenant, so not a lot of love overall for the Best Acting winning films. And yeah, it's a pretty big year for Mad Max, and I don't think it will be repeated on Sunday night, so that'll make this interesting, because this will be the second year in a row that Gold Derby has split from the Oscars, assuming Mad Max doesn't win the Oscar for Best Picture, which I think would be pretty unlikely. And for years before, we'd actually pretty much gone in lockstep on Best Picture with the Oscars for like 3 or 4 years prior. So this is interesting. We're starting to sort of split off from them.
But if you take the numbers, and at least in terms of the way the site is predicting, Mad Max is probably going to win on Sunday 5 or 6. So if you take that number and subtract out, let's say it doesn't win picture and director, like we're not predicting, it's going to win most of the other same categories that it won with us.
Right.
Probably.
So I just want to, on behalf of Chris Beachum and Marcus Dixon and Gold Derby as a whole, thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much especially for voting. If you voted, more than about 1,000 of you voted in this winners round, which every year the engagement goes up and the number of total votes we get goes up, which is very encouraging. We're happy to see more and more turnout and more engagement every year. So thank you very much for these winners, or we're sorry for these winners, depending on your outlook. Thank you very much for joining us. We will be back with plenty of Oscar coverage this weekend. See you later.